Some hot tea. Some hot tea. What's up, everybody? It is the Best Spot Kiss Move, and today we have a situation. Something that I predicted was going to happen, right? Psychonauts 2. No, it's coming out next month. It's, the next biggest thing from Xbox first party. But obviously, because of crowdfunding before Microsoft acquired Double Fine, Psychonauts 2 was crowdfunded, right? And, a lot of PlayStation backers back the game. So the game, by default, has to come out for the PS4. So after Microsoft acquired Double Fine, they poured a bunch of money into the studio, poured a bunch of money into this game. And now the game is turning out to be potentially a hit. You know what I mean? I've said countless times in podcasts and tweets, I think Psychonauts 2 is going to be a sleeper Gotti contender. I think that's going to be the biggest surprise of this year. You know what I mean? So, and I'm sticking by that. But I also expected them to, to do wonders for the Xbox version of this game. So now the specs came out for Psychonauts 2 for how this game is running on various different platforms. And no one should be surprised, but the responses is very, very, very funny. So shout out to my boy Persona Speaks, and let me just bring this down a little bit so we can see his Twitter handle. There we go. Persona Speaks. All right, so Persona is kind of upset, but he's not the only one. There's actually a ton of people. Actually, if you see the response to this tweet, a lot of people feel and share the same sentiment. So he tweets out, "Y'all can't sit here and tell me that the performance for Psychonauts 2 on PS5 wasn't deliberate." So what he's saying is that Double Fine and Xbox has deliberately, kind of given the PlayStation 5 the shitty version, or like deliberately made it so that it can't compete with Xbox. Now, this game has been long confirmed to be available to be a PlayStation 4 game, and it's not that Microsoft or Xbox or Double Fine, whatever, deliberately, half-baked the PlayStation version. The thing is, there is no native PS5 version, and there never was going to be. The game was only promised for PS4. Since they got acquired for Xbox, sure, they're going to make Xbox versions and obviously a proper next-gen version. So right now, there's only going to be one proper next-gen version of Psychonauts 2, and it's going to be the Xbox versions because it's their studio. It's a de facto next-gen exclusive for pretty much Xbox. So that's why when you see these performance metrics and it's just crazy looking, this is what happens. So on the Xbox One, we got Psychonauts 2 running at 1080p 30 frames per second. Xbox One X 4K 30 frames per second. Xbox Series S 1620p 60 frames per second. Yes, VRR support and HDR support, or you got the option to play at 1080p 120 frames per second. Xbox Series X 4K at 60 frames per second, or 1440p at 120 frames per second. Yes, it supports VRR and it supports HDR. On the base PS4, you get a native 1080p 30. On the PS4 Pro, you get a 1440p 30. And on the PS5, because it's running via backwards compatibility, you get the same resolution as the PS4 Pro, which is 1440p. And due to pretty much when you're doing backwards compatible mode, developers can open up the frame rate option so that it can hit a higher frame rate on PS5, and that's what they're doing here. It is 1440p 60 on the PS5 via backwards compatibility. People are upset. They wanted to match, the Xbox One. They think it should be 4K 60. They think it should be 120, and it probably would have been had it got a native PS5 port, but it didn't. What you guys should be is happy and appreciative that they actually went and did the you know, the BC Plus works, so at least you guys can get the 60 frames per second. But I called this. I said, I didn't call it. We already knew this. The PS4 version was going to get the Psychonauts for the simple fact it started out as a Kickstarter, and they got to promise backers. Xbox Series would get a native series version because it's an Xbox first party game, and now it's a de facto first party title. Why wouldn't they support their next gen console? So, and who's to say Double Fine even has a PS5 dev kit? Who's to say? They probably don't. They were purchased early enough that they probably don't have a PS5 dev kit. So, I mean, I know a lot of people are kind of like, kind of upset, and you know, this thing got a whole lot of retweets and whatnot, and people are going off the rocker saying all sorts of unnecessary stuff because they don't know anything. And this is no shot at Persona or anything like that. These people are just speaking, oh, because it's Xbox Studio, now they're just gimping them. That didn't it didn't stop the Outer Worlds for making a proper patch. Doom still got its proper PS5 patch. So this game was never, ever promised for the PS5. Therefore, it doesn't have native PS5 enhancements. So, if you want to play Psychonauts 2 at 120 frames per second, you can get it on the Xbox Series S or the Series. Hell, the Xbox Series S is running this bad boy at 1620p. That's higher than what you're getting on the PS4 Pro. So you're getting it at a higher resolution than what you would get on either of the PlayStation versions, and at a higher frame rate than either of the PS4 versions if you pick up the cheaper Xbox Series S. And the Xbox versions are the only versions that support HDR. Wow. I'm looking forward to Psychonauts 2. Like I said, it was a sleeper. It comes out next month. I feel like it's gonna do well. Right now, this is actually next week is the week where the whole Xbox has no games narrative completely dies, because after this week it's just going to be games up to the rest of the year, and then obviously 2022 is going to be some bangers and whatnot. But I hope you guys enjoy some Psychonauts 2, because I'll just be doing it at 120 frames per second, because that's just how I like to play my games that have that option, especially native option. So but man, yeah, shout out to Persona and them. Shout out to the PlayStation Nation. And shout out to Double Fine and Xbox. I'm happy that they finally released this. Now, I could have told you it was going to. I told actually yesterday when I was circling through the Xbox store, they updated the Psychonauts store page to confirm 120 frames per second support, which I posted yesterday. Madden apparently is going to support 120 frames per second as well as ray tracing, but it's unclear because it's only available, at least in the Xbox store, on one version of the game, and that's the $90 version. It might be a glitch, might be an error, but it's just weird. But it's also weird that Madden's going to be 120 frames per second, because it's like, how does that work? Either way, Psychonauts, Game Pass day one, Xbox, it runs best on Xbox Series X. Hell, you don't even have to, I would, for comparison's sakes, I wouldn't even put the Xbox Series X in a comparison when they do the graphics comparison. You could just do the Series S versus the PS5, and that would be fair. It's my video, guys. Xbox is the best box. I am the best bot. Good night or good morning if you're on the other side of the globe. We're out of here. Peace.